Hey, light workers and lurkers. This is Drayana Hathor, and today I'm going to be talking about my Great Awakening. So, I'm going to start off with my childhood and talk about how different I was and the signs that showed just how different I was from everybody else. So, firstly, like I said before, I was very introverted, and I've always been that way my entire life. So, when I was a child, barely talked. I barely talked so much that when I started pre-K or kindergarten, the school has sent me to a separate room. From what I remember, this is what my mother told me. So they sent me either to go be with the lunch lady or sent me somewhere out of the classroom because I just would sit there and just watch people. I wouldn't communicate with people. I didn't talk at all. It was either they sent me to go see the lunch lady or sit with the lunch lady, or they sent me to a special class. But I doubt it was a special class because I was so young. So they sent me to a separate room away from the kids. My mother told me because I wouldn't talk. They thought something was wrong with me, and I was that way all the way through my school years. I would just sit. I was a quiet observer, so I would sit and just people watch. I had friends, but even my friends that I did attract and have, I was still like detached from. I would, I was not, I never formed any deep friendship bonds with people my entire life. Like talking to my girlfriends and just being around people, the stuff they talked about didn't really move me. The mindsets, even when it came to relationships, the stuff that the girls went through with the cheating and all of that stuff, I felt was stupid. Like a lot of stuff I felt like was immature and stupid even as a child. And a lot of the friends that I did have, I ain't gonna say a lot of the friends I had, but I more got along with older people. And even some older people I thought were stupid as well. So as far as my intuition. So as far as my intuition goes, I've always had like a strong intuition. I have always been very empathetic. Like I didn't have a lot of people that were close to me, but it's just specifically my mother. Specifically my mother, like when she would cry, I would cry. Like I could feel her pain. Um, the most profound incident I remember as a child, as far as like being, um, I don't know, gifted, I guess you would say, is I saw my first spirit as a child. So my grandmother's brother's wife died. They had a daughter, and their daughter and my mother was around the same age, and they were close. They were cousins. So the family member that died was my great aunt. I'm gonna call her my great aunt because she's my grandmother's brother's wife. So she died. I wasn't close to her at all. I don't remember being around her much at all, but I remember going to her funeral. So we went to her funeral and we went back to her daughter's house, who's my mother's cousin. Now, my mother's cousin stayed in the apartment. So, and I'll like to add that at the funeral, I did not look at the casket. I didn't even get up out my seat. I didn't go walk over to the casket or nothing like that. So I didn't see her body in the casket at all. And like I said, I rarely was around her. Like I can't remember ever talking to the lady. But we went back to her daughter's house after the funeral, and me and my cousins were running around. It was an apartment. We were running around the apartment in the bedroom. I'm assuming that's the room that she died in. That was her room because her daughter took care of her while she was sick up until her death. I'm walking past, or running past rather, the room, and I see her sitting on the end of the bed, like in my peripheral vision. So I turn around and look at her, and she's sitting there, and she look beautiful, long flowing hair. I remember her having on a white dress, or either a cream dress, like a light colored dress, sitting very peacefully at the end of the bed. She did not look at me, but she was just sitting there looking straight forward. And I saw her, and I just kept it pushing. I wasn't scared or anything like that. So I remember telling my mother that I saw her sitting on the bed. My mother looked at me and, like, kind of grinned and never said anything. She didn't ask no questions or nothing, and we never talked about that after that. This situation happened when I was in elementary school. Now, I wasn't in fifth grade yet because we were still living on the other side of town. So I had to been between the first and the fourth grade. So that's how young I was when that incident happened, my first time seeing the spirit. My mother hasn't told me much about what she observed during my childhood because she's just like that. Like, she is a karmic mother. So she hasn't told me much. Certain things that she's told me that I remember that stuck with me was the fact that she said when I was born I had pneumonia and I was hospitalized as a infant. I mean, as an infant. So she told me that. She told me that I was a biter. So I would be crawling age and crawl around and just bite people, bite their legs, bite them. And she said I didn't stop it, so she started letting people bite me back. So I was a biter. She told me that when I was a newborn, that her and my father took me to his grandmother's house. Now, his grandmother, now this is another thing that stuck with me, because she said his grandmother, I'm assuming, considered herself a high priestess, but she was a witch, and she lived in a neighborhood, and a lot of people in the neighborhood would come to her house for her to work for them. So I'm assuming that she was like a what y'all call them people? She did work for people. I can't think of the name. A practitioner. That's the word for it. So she was a practitioner. So they took me, and I put this together later, but she told me this when I was young. She said they took me as an infant to go and see her. And when she held me, she started like chanting or like speaking in tongues or something. My mother went to go grab me from her, and my father said that she was blessing me. So yeah, but she definitely elaborated that a lot of people that lived around her neighborhood, she lived on Shirley Avenue around Park Heights, in that neighborhood, in that area, that people came to her specifically as a practitioner to get work done. And she was very popular, very well known. I never met her. I can't even tell you her name. I don't know when she died. I probably can look it up on Ancestry because all of their history is on there, but I never met her. As far as I didn't even meet my father until I was 10 years old, from my recollection, and none of his family either. So I was always, like, during my school ages, very nonchalant. I would be friends with people and not feel them no more and be like, all right, I'm done. Now, whether it was subconsciously knowing it was time to let them go, but I've always been the type to leave people behind. I never really got too attached to people. I always have been able to feel spirits. I can feel when the energy in a room shifts. I can feel if a spirit walks through a room. If any kind of energy outside of mine is around me that can't be seen, I can feel it. Now, uh, my first time actually utilizing my gifts in the most major way was the first time I had to heal myself from a major wound. Now, this wound occurred when I was 13 years old, when I lost my virginity. So I had a boyfriend at 13, and we were together for a year. I made him wait, tying my virginity, or my sexuality, or my really tying my virginity to my heart. So I figured, I make them wait, or we wait a year and then we do it just to feel more secure and safe in doing it. So we waited a year, and then I was like, okay, it's time. So we did it. And when we did it, let me go back. No, I'll keep going forward. So when we did it, like not too long after, almost damn near immediately after, he broke up with me. And not only did he break up with me, but he decided, now I was in the 8th grade when he broke up with me, and he was in the 10th. He was 2 years older than me. So he was in high school. I was in middle school. He decided to go out of his way after breaking up with me, after taking my virginity, to decide to start messing with a girl in my middle school. So you have a whole high school of people, that girls to choose from. So you decide to spite me or hurt me even more by messing with somebody. It got back to me that he was talking to a girl in my school. I'm like, what? So that was purely out of spite, but that has been my history in life, like people holding animosity towards me for no apparent reason, just pure intimidation, or to try to break me down for whatever reason. Because me and him never had any arguments, never had any problem. It was like all love as far as I was concerned. But a red flag that I did notice is that I would go around his neighborhood back when we were together. And I go around and he'd be outside with his friends. We would just go around there to hang out. I had friends around there outside of him. He would see me and he would haul ass. So he was my first runner, but I didn't realize what that was back then, obviously. So I'd be walking up and they would, be like, oh, there go Dreana, and he would haul ass. I mean, run off. I'm like, well, maybe he's shy. Because the same night he'd be talking to me on the phone, and we'd talk on the phone all night. Go to school the next morning, haven't slept, fall asleep on the phone together. Like, we were like all the time. We were bonded very much, but when I would go around his friends or go around and I would come around, he would run. He was a runner. So it was something going on within him that had absolutely nothing to do with me that made him do what he did to me. But even though I was hurt because I tied my virginity to my heart, or tied my sexuality to my heart, I took the time to go within. And this is at 13 years old, naturally. Took the time to go within and to heal. And coming out of that, after going within and healing and isolating and not dealing with anybody else for like a year, I came out of that with the mindset of not tying my body to love. So moving forward, any relationship that I've ever had after that, any person I ever had sex with after that, my heart was not tied to it. The purpose of it was for pleasure or reproduction. That was it. Now, I didn't just do it with anybody. I had, of course, standards, and they had to meet certain requirements for me to do it. But my heart has never been, since then, since my first time having sex, and we only had sex one time, my heart has never been tied to it. And I never got my heart broken again. And from that point on, I did have like a boundary up when it came to my heart. My heart was not open to people anymore. But not in a bad way. I still cared about people, and then I was still loving and caring, but I didn't let anybody get that close. Not as close as he did, because I didn't tie sex to my heart. That's it for my childhood, my supernatural childhood, or the ways that I used my gifts as a child. So I'm about to cut this one and move on to the first time that the Creator God ever, the one and only time he ever scolded me. I'm going to talk about what I did. And yeah, so that's going to be the next one. So I'm about to record that now. Like, share, subscribe, and watch the next one.